guys, so Miss Rowe here, coming to you virtually. Clearly not in the art classroom. I'm at my place, and real quick before I get any questions or roast, yes, that is my Christmas tree over there. No, I did not take it down, and yes, I still light it up sometimes because I like twinkly lights. So, well, one, I really miss all of you guys. I miss being at school. I just miss being able to talk to you, see how you're all doing. I miss being able to create together. I'm really bummed that, the trimester started and then this happened when it did, but, it is what it is. So, but I miss all of you. I hope you're doing well. I hope your families are doing well. So moving on from there, I can show you guys a cool little art assignment. Think of it as like a crazy doodle, if you would like. So again, it looks super complicated, which I get, it looks a little intimidating, but it's basically one basic concept that is just repeated over and over again. So again, once you get the hang of just what it is at its core, then all you basically do is just keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. So, but it ends up looking pretty crazy in the end. It's kind of like making your own coloring page too, in a way, which I personally kind of like. So yeah, there's that. For the things that you're gonna need, in case you didn't know, you will obviously want a nice blank sheet of paper. I have my sketchbook right here, and preferably a Sharpie or a black marker if you have one. And if you don't, that's okay. You can always just use like a pencil, a pen, whatever drawing material that you have. And that's mainly to just create the outline. So when we actually start moving into coloring, you can always use markers or colored pencils. But again, if you don't have these things, not a big deal. You can use crayons. You can just, again, shade it in with your pencil. You can make it black and white. But basically kind of like this, but just in pencil instead of with marker. It's up to you. And again, in the future, when I'm creating these kind of virtual assignments, I have to really keep in mind what kind of materials people have at home and what they can use. So right now I'm focusing on drawing and more two-dimensional work. Just because, as much as I wish that I could, I can't virtually hand you materials to use, which sucks. But it is what it is. So yeah, keeping that in mind. Also, before I show you the video, if you are watching this before Friday, the end of Friday, I will be available to talk for a little bit in the morning and the afternoon on Friday. The times are in the Google Doc with all the other related arts teachers and like a Zoom meeting. So if you want to, or if you have time, feel free to swing by, say hi, ask me a question about this, or just show me your face because I do miss your faces. And if you can't make that meeting, I'll put my email down in the description, so you can always email me. It would just be really nice to hear from you guys. It's been really hard, obviously, being, kind of cooped up in the house and not really being able to go out and, like, see people, or talk to people. So, I would love to hear from you guys. Last thing too is these assignments that I'm doing, as I'm sure you already read, again, are by no means mandatory. They're just more, you can think of it more as like an enrichment. So if you're done with all of your work for the day, or if you want a break, or maybe you want something relaxing, then this could be a good assignment for you. Or if you just miss art, that's also fine too. So again, I'm going to show you the process. I'm going to do a voiceover, and again, please be nice because I'm not a video editor. Learning it one step at a time, just like you. So let me know how it goes. I would love if you guys could send me a picture if you do it, just to see how it went. So it'd be really cool. I'd love to connect with you guys. So bye. Okay, so the very first thing that you want to do is draw a really long line all the way down the page from the top to the bottom, any line you want. The next thing is that you're going to want to put dots along the line. So what you need to decide is, do you want a piece that looks really, really busy, like the green one right here? Because if so, then you want to have a lot of dots that are evenly spaced out. Or if you want to have one like the black and white one where they're a lot bigger, then you want to have less dots. Because basically the dots are where all of your lines are going to be meeting. So I'm going to try making a bigger one, kind of like the black and white one. And so again, I'm spacing my dots out pretty far, trying to keep it as even as possible. So, and again, yeah, just a few of them. And again, add a bunch more dots if you want more of a crazy design that's a lot more tiny. So then the next thing you want to do is, from one dot to the next, you want to just go ahead and create this sort of leaf shape. And I'm making these pretty thin because later on we're going to add on to them. But I like to kind of just keep it consistent when I'm first starting out, so I don't get overwhelmed or I get lost or confused. So again, just make them nice and thin all the way up. And I try to, at the very top and bottom, connect the leaves to this like top of and the bottom of the page, so it doesn't look like they're getting chopped in half. So the next thing that you want to do is basically go ahead and add 2 more lines on, kind of like 2 more layers around what you've already created, kind of like an onion, if that makes sense. So again, you're just drawing a nice curved line from one dot to the next dot all the way down. And then the next thing that you want to go ahead and do is add 2 more sets of lines, so 1 line on each side. So you're making it extra big and round. Yeah, and again, how big or round you want to make it's really up to you. I just think it takes up more space when I make it nice and big, so that's just what I tend to go for. But again, you can do it however you want. So this process is basically kind of just how the rest of it's going to work. So you're going to start drawing lines that are connecting from any of the dots, doesn't matter which one, from around the page, and then you're going to just add a few dots in there. There we go. And again, I want mine to be pretty large. I'll call them onions. I want them to be pretty large onions. So again, I'm not making that many dots, and so you're doing the same thing again. So I'm drawing these pretty thin looking little leaves going on all the way down, connecting them at the side of the page. And then I'm going in, I'm adding my second layer, just like that. And again, you basically do that all the way down. So then after that, again, you just want to create another line that's going from, so yeah, you add your last layer, and then you want to create another line that's going from, again, that's just basically running through any of those little dot center points that you've already created. So again, it doesn't really matter. The next part's really up to you. So again, just add it wherever you want, where you think it's good. The main goal of this is that you want to be able to fill up the page completely, to the point where there's no extra little tiny areas that are just white. So again, once you get to a point where you feel like you can't really add that many more lines anymore, then you can just kind of start doing more of like a freestyle, where you're just basically, it doesn't really matter if they're in a line or not, you're just going ahead and adding in extra onions everywhere. And again, if you make a mistake, it's really not a huge deal, because this design just gets so complicated, and it's a lot to look at. So again, unless your mistake is ginormous, you can probably fix it and it's going to be fine. So don't stress about it. Again, once you get to a point where you have all these little tiny areas like you see here, I'm just going to go ahead and just start filling it in, just kind of freehanding it. Doesn't really have to connect to anything. You just want to fill that space up so it looks nice and busy, just like that. There we go. Very nice, very nice. And again, now if you want to, you can go back in, refine, maybe add a little thicker of Sharpie lines in case some of them overlap each other. Not a big deal. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is think about coloring. So again, like I talked about earlier, if you want, you can use markers like I did with the orange and yellow one, or you can use colored pencils like I did with this green one. And really just choose, 1 color, 2 colors, whatever colors you want, really. Again, you can even just stick with a clean black and white too, and just use Sharpie or your pencil or what have you. It's really up to you. I would probably try to stay away from using 2 colors that are almost exactly the same, because then you won't get the same effect, but you could try it out, see how it goes. So for this process, just to show you how to color, I'm going to go ahead and choose a nice red colored pencil, just like this. Okay, so the next part is figuring out how you want to color your piece. So basically, I would start with one of your original onion pieces that you did in the very beginning. So basically, each onion piece is going to have 6 parts. So basically, you just want to alternate between leaving one alone, leaving it white, and then your color. We'll just say red. So red, white, red. So that's kind of what I'm doing right here. So again, you color one, and then you skip one, and then you color the next one red, skip one, color the next one red. So then when you move to the next onion, I shall say, that is connected to it, you want it to be the opposite. So for example, if your very far right side is red, then you want to leave that white in the next one down. So again, you're just alternating. So you just don't want it to look the exact same you don't have the same color pattern for ones that are touching each other, if that makes any sense. Again, I have an extra instructional aid that's going to be linked also, just like a nice picture for you to look at, but you can also just pause the video and just look at this if you are still a little bit confused about that. So again, I'm moving through and I'm alternating again. So again, for me, one piece of advice is that if you start to get a little bit lost, I just always look at the outer parts of the one before. So basically, if I am getting a little overwhelmed, if I see that, I used red on the far left piece on the one before, then I know that I don't need to color the far left piece red again. So again, that it sounds more complicated than it really is, but essentially you're just alternating colors. Okay, so after you've finished coloring your first set of onions, we'll say, you want to move on to your next set, which would be one of the ones that you did in the very beginning. Because again, it's more established. It's not kind of a random one. I just find that a little bit easier to follow. So again, you're doing the same thing. You're just alternating the colors all the way down. And then after you're done with that, you just find another line and you, again, just pick a color, start alternating it, go all the way down. So once you've finished coloring pretty much all of the main parts, you're going to find all those little tiny areas that you just kind of freehanded and drew in extra lines. Again, these areas aren't really super important, to be honest. But again, just try to alternate between, again, your color and then leaving it white. So red, white, red, white. If you see ones that look like they could be connected to one of your other little onions that you've made, then of course you can always try to follow along with that coloring. But again, I made a mistake there, not a big deal. Because again, it's so busy that it doesn't really matter, honestly, because people are looking at it as a whole. So again, and if the little detail bothers you a whole lot, I mean, if you want, you can get some white out. But I personally just try not to worry about it because this is more just kind of like a fun, crazy doodle sort of thing. It's not like a serious project, really. But you could turn it into one. It's up to you. So do that all the way down. Make sure that you double check all your areas, that you didn't miss any. So again, you don't want to leave any area just completely white. So after you finish coloring in your first color, you can either choose to leave the rest of the areas white, or you can choose a second color. I chose this nice turquoise color. It's a marker, so I mixed markers and color pencils, but I mean, it's really up to you. It's however you want to do it. But yeah, this part's pretty simple. You basically can go ahead and go in, just fill in all that white area. You can also try to go over any mistakes that you made if you're using a darker color, which works out well. But yeah, here you go. You made a really super cool doodle. Good job. Go ahead, feel free to send me anything that you've completed.